This podcast is brought to you by NEMT Platform.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the NEMT Platform Podcast. I'm your host, Olivia, and I have a great show for you today. We're diving deep into something that's been on so many of y'all's minds: how to actually start making real money with a non-emergency medical transportation business. Now, I know some of you have been thinking about this for months, maybe even years. You see all these success stories online, but you're sitting there like, okay, but how do I actually do this? Well, today we're going to break it all the way down for you. I've got my good friend Daniel here with me today. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hey, Olivia. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here, for real.
Now, for those who don't know Daniel, this man has been in the NEMT game for over 8 years. He's helped dozens of people start their own successful transportation businesses, and trust me, he knows what he's talking about. Daniel, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So, like Olivia said, I've been in the NEMT industry for about 8 years now. I actually started from the ground up. Began as a dispatcher back in 2016, then worked my way up to operations manager, and now I'm a consultant, helping people start their own businesses. I've seen this industry from every angle, so I understand the challenges from both the operational side and the business ownership side. That's exactly why I love helping people now, because I know what works and what doesn't work in real-world situations.
And that's exactly why we're here today. Daniel, I know you've got a step-by-step process that you walk people through. Before we jump into that, though, let's keep it real with folks. What made you want to get into NEMT in the first place?
Man, that's a great question. I was working at a warehouse, making about $15 an hour, and I had a grandmother who needed rides to her dialysis appointments 3 times a week. The family was always struggling to get her there, and I started thinking, there's got to be other families going through the same thing. That's when I started researching, and I found out about Medicaid transportation benefits. I was like, wait, they pay for this?
Right. And that's something a lot of people don't know about. The government actually pays for transportation for people who need to get to medical appointments but don't have reliable transportation. It's not charity. It's a legitimate business opportunity.
Exactly. And the need is massive, especially in our communities. So many people don't have cars, or they have cars that break down, or they can't drive because of their medical conditions. This is a real service that people desperately need.
Absolutely. Now, let's get into the good stuff. Daniel, when someone comes to you and says, I want to start an NEMT business, what's the very first thing you tell them?
The first thing I tell them is to slow down. I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. Most people want to jump straight to buying a vehicle or getting clients. But the first step is actually research and planning. You need to understand your local market.
Okay, break that down for us. What does understanding your local market actually mean?
Great question. It means you need to find out who's providing NEMT services in your area already, what the rates are, and most importantly, who's paying for these services. In most cases, it's Medicaid, but some areas also have private insurance, Medicare Advantage plans, or even private pay clients.
So you're basically doing detective work before you even start.
Exactly. You want to call your local Medicaid office. They usually have a transportation coordinator. Ask them about their broker system. Most states use what's called a broker. That's a company that manages all the transportation requests for Medicaid clients.
Now, can you explain what a broker is? Because I know some people might be confused by that term.
Sure thing. A broker is basically the middleman between you and the Medicaid clients. Instead of dealing with hundreds of individual clients, you work with 1 or 2 brokers who give you ride requests. They handle all the scheduling, the billing to Medicaid, and they pay you. It makes everything much simpler.
That sounds way easier than trying to manage all those clients yourself.
There really is. Some of the big brokers are companies like ModivCare, Medical Transportation Management, or Verida. Each state is different, so you need to find out which brokers operate in your area.
Okay, so step 1 is research. What's step 2?
Step 2 is getting your business legal. And I can't stress this enough. You need to do this right from the beginning. Get your business registered with your state, get your EIN number from the IRS, and get proper insurance.
Let's talk about insurance because I know that's where a lot of people get scared. What kind of insurance do you need?
You need commercial auto insurance, general liability, and in most states, you need what's called livery insurance. This is different from regular car insurance. If you try to use personal auto insurance for business use, They will deny your claims. Trust me, I've seen this happen.
And that could literally put you out of business if something happens?
Absolutely. One accident without proper insurance, and you could lose everything. The good news is, once you're established and have steady income, the insurance costs are totally manageable. When I started, I was paying about $400 a month for one vehicle. Now, with multiple vehicles, I pay less per vehicle because of volume discounts.
That's good to know. What about the vehicle itself? What should people look for?
This is where I see people make their biggest mistakes. They either buy something too expensive, thinking they need a brand new vehicle, or they buy something too cheap that breaks down every week.
What's your sweet spot for that first vehicle?
I usually recommend looking for something between $8,000 and $15,000. You want something that's been well maintained, preferably with maintenance records. SUVs or minivans work great because they can accommodate wheelchairs if needed, and they're comfortable for clients.
And speaking of wheelchairs, do you need a special vehicle for that?
Not necessarily. A lot of clients can transfer from their wheelchair to a regular seat. But if you want to do wheelchair transportation, you'll need a vehicle with a ramp or lift. Those are more expensive, but they also pay more per trip.
More money, but higher upfront costs. That makes sense. Now, once someone has their business set up and their vehicle ready, how do they actually get clients?
This is where that research from step 1 pays off. You contact those brokers we talked about earlier. Each broker has their own application process, but they all want to see the same basic things: proof of insurance, business registration, background checks for drivers, and in some cases, vehicle inspections.
How long does that process usually take?
It depends on the broker, but usually anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months. That's why I tell people to start this process early. You don't want to have your vehicle sitting there costing you money while you're waiting for approval.
That's good advice. Now, let's talk about the money part because I know that's what everyone really wants to know. How much can someone realistically expect to make?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It really depends on your area and how much you want to work. In my area, most trips pay between $25 and $45. If you can do 6 to 8 trips a day, you're looking at $150 to $360 in revenue.
And how much of that is profit?
Your main expenses are going to be gas, insurance, vehicle maintenance, and your time. In my experience, after all expenses, you're probably looking at about 60 to 70% profit. So if you're making $200 a day in revenue, you might net about $120 to $140.
That's not bad at all, especially if you're working for yourself.
Exactly. And remember, this is scalable. Once you get one vehicle running profitably, you can add more vehicles and hire drivers. That's when the real money starts coming in.
Let's talk about that scaling part. When should someone think about hiring their first driver?
I usually tell people to wait until they're consistently busy enough that they're turning down trips. That's when you know there's enough demand to support a second vehicle and driver.
And how do you find good drivers?
This is crucial. You need drivers who are reliable, professional, and understand that they're often dealing with elderly or disabled clients. I usually look for people with customer service experience, and I always do thorough background checks.
What red flags should people watch out for when hiring drivers?
Any gaps in employment without explanation, multiple traffic violations, or anyone who seems like they just want a paycheck without caring about the clients. Remember, your drivers are representing your business. One bad driver can ruin your reputation with a broker.
That's so important. Your reputation is everything in this business, right?
Absolutely. Word travels fast, especially in the medical community. If you're consistently late, unprofessional, or unreliable, brokers will stop giving you trips. But if you're dependable and professional, they'll keep you busy.
Now, I know some people might be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. What are some of the challenges people should expect?
The biggest challenge is usually the learning curve in the beginning. You're learning how to use different scheduling systems, figuring out the most efficient routes, dealing with no-shows or cancellations. It can be frustrating at first.
No-shows? That's when clients don't show up for their scheduled rides?
Exactly. And unfortunately, it happens more than you'd like. Most brokers have policies about this. They'll usually still pay you something if you show up and the client isn't there, but it's not the full rate.
That's smart planning. Now, before we wrap up, what's your number one piece of advice for someone who's thinking about starting an NEMT business?
I get it. It's scary to leave a steady paycheck and start your own business. But remember, this isn't some get-rich-quick scheme. This is a legitimate business providing a real service that people need. If you do your homework and start smart, you can build something that provides good income and flexibility.
This is amazing. Y'all, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. Daniel, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you for having me, Olivia. This was fun.
And to all my listeners out there, remember, your success is our success. If you found value in today's episode, make sure you subscribe, leave us a review, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. Until next time, this is Olivia Johnson saying keep grinding, keep growing, and keep making those moves. Peace out.